Hello, everybody. Welcome to Nintendo Pow Block here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host, Eddie V, the enlightened, excited one. Joining me, got a good full house for you guys, making his return. The Galloping Gallatrat himself, Mr. Jacob Taylor.
What's going on, everybody?
Yes, of course, it's the one, the only, my editor-in-chief, the devastating Dungeoneer himself, Mr. David Lasky.
Hey, everybody. Happy week of E3. Woo!
Yes, of course. You know I always got to give props and lift this one up because he is my bro him, bossman himself. Of course, everybody. Standing ovation for the one, the only, Mr. Corey Derrick.
I don't know if I would go that far, but, you know. Yeah. Hi, guys. It's good to be here. It's good to see everybody's faces, except for Dan's, because I have to work.
Damn.
Dan is out. He is working. He is working really hard building his house. He's making a deck, and that mug looks big. It looks nice. I didn't know that he was
I'm gonna be a man and build a deck.
I didn't know that he was like a contractor.
Could have fooled me. He's too pretty to be doing that. What is he doing?
And everybody, our special guest. If you thought that the Hot Fix track was hot on Wednesday mornings, you have not seen or heard anything yet. He just got sponsored from, of course, I'm gonna let him talk about who he got sponsored by. The Final Boss Crew. Everybody, please welcome from WASD and Beyond, my homie, the Detroit native himself, the one, the only, Nick the Legit. What is up, good sir?
How's it going, Ed? It's good to be here with everybody on Nintendo Pow Block. I'm super, super stoked to be here.
Wow. Thank you. Ed, that was like the beginning of Spaceballs when you just watch the ship and it just keeps going for like 15 minutes, but in like audio form.
I dig it.
Yes, Nick knows. Like I love him and his crew's work. Like I keep telling him that I like to drop it low when the Hot Fix music comes. And his discussions on Fridays just are everything. Like I really, really love his work. But before we get into the episode, Nick, you want to tell us everybody about WASD and Beyond, the podcast?
Yeah, WASD and Beyond is hosted by me, my friend Evan, and my other friend Matt. And it's a gaming it's supposed to be a gaming podcast, right? But it always gets derailed, goes off topic any chance we get. And it usually leads into me. I told this to Corey yesterday, just into me ranting about conspiracies that aren't true, that are totally NSFW. It doesn't make sense. And I'm surprised people get through the episode with how weird it gets. But yes, we are a gaming podcast. And we happen to be on the Boss Rush Network as well. So we are one giant family, and I am very stoked about that.
Yes, and if you guys are watching this live, check out WASD and Beyond. They have some shirts for E3 going on, but get yours quick. There are sizes. Once they are gone, that is it. And you can follow them on Twitter, and we'll get to the plugs with that later on, so you can get the information there. But we're going to get into some quick housekeeping. This is episode 249 of the Nintendo Pow Block podcast. Each and every week, we come together to talk about games and everything we love about them with our friends. You can join us live on Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/BossRushGames Live and be a part of the conversation. But if you can't join us live, no big deal. You can head over to youtube.com. Sorry, everybody. You can head over to youtube.com/BossRushGames and BossRushGames.com to watch the show or listen on your podcast service of choice. Remember to subscribe, follow, rate, and review wherever you consume us. It helps us out with discoverability, and check out our family of shows wherever you listen to your podcast. Come join the Boss Rush Network Discord. We have a ton of communities there that talk about games, entertainment, snacks, and more. So everybody, of course, it is time for Snacktendo. And I'm going to David first about Snacktendo because he posted something that has caused a big discussion. And I am excited for him to talk about this.
Oh, but before we do Ed, I think Corey had something real quick.
I did. I said it in the chat. I'm sorry. I was trying to be all sneaky about it, but Ed missed it. So, I just want to say a couple of things. We are covering E3 in a big way this year. I know we talked about it on the Boss Rush podcast yesterday, but E3, we're doing a bunch of live shows. There's no Nintendo Pow Block regular episode next week. We are doing our direct recap show on Tuesday night live. So if you want to join us for that, that will be next week's episode. It's also technically Pow Block 250, but we're kind of recording out of order because I want to get the 6 kind of main cast members of Pow Block on an episode for, an hour or so just to talk about the show moving forward and kind of what it's meant to us in the past and what we kind of want to do moving forward. But just to let everybody know, Boss Rush at Night E3 2021 starts Friday, June 11th at 8:30 Eastern Time. We're covering all the conferences Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So if you just want to hear the Nintendo stuff, it will be next Tuesday on June 15th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Dan and I, as well as a panel of guests, will be talking about the Nintendo Direct. So just to give everybody a heads up when you show up live and next week and we're talking about Take-Two and Capcom instead of Nintendo. That's all.
All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to slice your Snacktendo intro there, Ed.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know that I should have put that part in the notes. I'm sorry. I apologize. That's on me. But yes, David, you posted a picture. It caused a ruckus, and I am intrigued though. So go ahead. What's been on your snack today?
Well, it's like I tell my kids, Ed, you got to try new things. They might be good. So, this week I tried pickle pizza, and it was fantastic. Like I was skeptical at first, but the main ingredient on top, sliced pickles with some jalapeno, some feta cheese, and it was just to die for. It was so good.
Now, I have a question. Was there any kind of sauce? Like, how there's white sauce and tomato sauce. Was there anything like that, or was it just the bread and cheese?
No, it was. There was like a white sauce underneath.
Okay.
To complement the vinegar acidity of the pickles and jalapenos, and it was so good. So that was top of my list for Snacktendo for sure. And then it was kind of just pizza week. Last night I made I shouldn't take credit. My wife made it. I'd get in trouble for that. But homemade mushroom French bread pizzas. So a thick layer of mushroom on top of French bread with some more jalapeno and stuff on top. So it was great. We just kind of mixed it up with all different kinds of pizzas this week. And it was good eating in the Lasby household. So.
Well, you love just the spicy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The spicier, the better.
I can't.
In fact, usually I put jalapenos on, then I get crushed red peppers, and then I go get some hot sauce and put it on top. So usually at least minimum 3 things. Yeah. Corey knows.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, what'd you say, Jacob?
My type of guy.
You do as well?
I get yelled at all the time by Becca because I have ulcers and they get upset by spice. But my tongue is like, no, but we need the spice, and my stomach is like, no, we don't. But the hotter the better all the time.
I cannot do spice because I'm an Aries and we are fire and we don't like more fire.
You make it up with your spicy takes, Ed.
Yeah,
I do.
Oh yeah, you do.
I do. Now I will say, hot sauce on catfish, I would do.
What?
Some jalapeno juice in nachos, I would do, or sometimes when I'm having nachos, I'll have some jalapenos. But flat out spicy stuff, nah,
Can't do it.
can't do it. But Corey, what has been in your Snacktendo?
Oh, geez. What? We had some bratwurst yesterday. They were fine. I mean, my weekend's been pretty boring. Although last week was my sister-in-law's 40th birthday, so I guess it wasn't that boring. We got these big sushi trays. Got some of them crunchy Californias, the spicy shrimp.
Is that good stuff, man?
I gotta tell you, man, that spicy shrimp. So there's a grocery store here called Giant Eagle. If you live in the Ohio area or the Pennsylvania area, you know what Giant Eagle is. Every Wednesday and Sunday, they have $5 sushi. And, dude, it's some of the best sushi I've ever had. I'm not even kidding. And
I normally hit grocery stores. Our sushis are $6 on Wednesdays.
Well, mine's $5, Ed, and it's delicious. But yeah, man, you get that. They on the Crunchy California, they also put like this spicy sauce on it. Oh, and you just take a fork, because I'm white, and you just put it in the wasabi, and then you swirl it around, and then you just stab the sushi and just eat it, and then you get the wasabi in your nose, and it burns so good. Oh,
I love wasabi.
Oh yeah,
I do too.
You know what you have to do? You have to put your wasabi. You have to pour your soy sauce, and then put your wasabi in your soy sauce. And get that all swirled around.
Yeah, you're supposed to mix it, right?
Yeah. That's
salty, spicy.
So good.
That is the devil's hair cream wasabi. I not touch it.
Oh man, I want Ed. I just want to. We need to do like the spicy pepper challenge or whatever, but only make Ed do it with like the most mildest spicy things, and like. You know how like some of the bottles have like the temperature gauge, and it's like all the way at the bottom. It's like, this is 1, and then I just want to see Ed's face melt because his mouth is dying.
Put that on the list when I come to Ohio. Jacob, you have been gone. So what has been your Snacktendo for the month of May?
Oh man, for the entire month of May. Early in the month, I've actually started transitioning myself into a vegan diet. That's been thrown into whack because Becca came down and she does not want to do a vegan diet. But I've done it before in the past, and I got re-inspired by David. So yeah, I was like, well, I it's healthier, it's better, and it makes you open yourself up to more options. Rather than just eating the same thing all the time.
It took me 2 years, Jacob. I started and stopped. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, I'm not letting myself get discouraged at all. I've been enjoying, but like I still make even knowing that I'm gonna be eating meat, I make like, okay, well, I'm gonna get like less meat. I'm gonna just slowly cut it out. But. So we've had sushi. We went to Kura Revolving Sushi Bar. It's a conveyor belt sushi bar. That's a lot of fun where you pay by the plate of sushi. We also went to a brewery. Had some absolutely delicious beer, and I had some hard cider and seltzer, which was really good. Although
man.
Becca said my cherry seltzer tasted like a kids cherry Tylenol, so I don't know if that worked out or not. And then what else have I had? I made some more of my potato curry. So made a lot of that and had some of that early on in May. And then the last week of May, I got bronchitis.
Oh no!
So I literally just laid in bed, and I think that entire week I had water and Gatorade, and then I think eventually towards the end I had a bowl of ice cream, and like that's
oh my god,
that's what I ate because I was just like not in the mood to do anything.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was not fun, and then other than that, and then tonight she 1 second. Hold on.
Let's see what he's saying.
What's that called?
Let's let's try to guess what he's saying.
Yes. I'm still coming out to Detroit one day, Nick.
Kielbasa.
Ooh.
Oh, kielbasa.
Y'all were right. I asked what was it called. Yeah, she made kielbasa tonight, and that was so good. It was absolutely delicious.
Put some onions on that, caramelized onions on top.
Yeah, onions, bell peppers, a
Yeah.
little bit of cheese, sausage, and all on a nice little bread base. It was really, really good. Oh, and Ed, Becca said that because I think you had mentioned earlier on in May that you had tried orange Pepsi.
The mango
Pepsi. She bought that 'cause she's like, oh, she saw it and was like, Ed got that. I'm gonna have myself a little Snacktendo, and so she blames you for it because apparently.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear her thoughts on it. What she thought.
Oh yeah, I will let you know, or she'll let you know. But yeah, other than that, I haven't really had bronchitis. Really threw me out of the loop for a while. Like I've forgotten everything that I've eaten since then, basically. So. Yeah,
okay. All right, Nick, what has been on your Snacktendo?
Honestly, not a whole lot of crazy good foods like I usually eat, because I've been trying to keep myself losing weight and working out, so I haven't been like snacking as hard as I like to.
Yeah, I seen you throw up that muscle on the show yesterday. It was just like, look at Nick.
All right. So that was a trick, you know. You got to put your hand behind it, and then you can get LeBron. That's the only way I'll ever be LeBron size. No, but if I, when I do snack, it's definitely pizza. Pizza's like my go-to snack, and it's never just a pepperoni pizza. So like, my go-to is if I get pizza from Buddy's. So I'll throw, Detroit styles, caramelized crust, square pizza, some feta cheese, jalapeno, pepperoni, sausage, things like that, usually. But like, the ranch has to be good for pizza. Because if the ranch is trash, it ruins the entire pizza. Well, there's a spot down here called Major Tomato, and they actually have ranch with dill in it.
Oh, I love dill.
The best. It is the best. So my Snacktendo's been pretty boring, but I've had some cool meads. I've had some good craft beer from Detroit. Other than that, just water, granola bars, and chicken wraps. Has
Nice.
Snacking on.
Yeah, I know. Me and you been talking because I'm trying to come up to Detroit this year come visit you guys, come visit Asa. And I know you guys mentioned Jet's Pizza.
Yeah.
Because after if you guys remember, I did the Pizza Hut Detroit pizza, which was good. It was like I'm like, oh, this is nice. But you guys are just like, yeah, it's good, but you got to come up to Detroit to get the real stuff. Yeah. So I'm excited to try that.
Well, the real stuff would be from Buddy's. So Jets is like a chain pizza spot that's like all over the U.S. now. But it's good. Jets is good. I like Jets. I know people have had horror stories about Jets because like other Jets, Jacob, in other states aren't as good as the one up here, as the Jets that are around my area. But like their ranch is just to die for. Like Jets ranch is like cream of the crop. But like for sure, like Buddy's is really good. My fiance took me to a spot called Green Lantern. That's a little bit further from Detroit, but it's really good Detroit pizza. So,
can you order that ranch with the? Oh, go ahead, David.
Oh no, I was gonna ask you what you've been snacking on.
Oh,
you didn't tell us about you.
Yeah.
Oh, so what I've been snacking on, there hasn't been no new snacks yet. I gotta go out and get the key lime pie Kit Kat bar. Still need to find that, but I kind of been just snacking on like some fried rice here and there. Have some checker seasoned fries today. Really because it's been boring. Been drinking like a lot of water and Arizona mango. So kind of been like low key and stuff. I did have my Twix cookie and cream freshly that they came in that I enjoy. But normally, yeah, I haven't really been eating like junk food or something, or found a new place yet. So I've been a good boy for the Snacktendo. But I did create that E3 snack list, everybody, which you guys will soon find out. Yes, I messaged you, David, on Discord. So I cannot wait for you to edit.
and that's for our listeners. We're doing the snack list in preparation of E3, so it should be up on Friday, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Once you add your flair to it, it'll be ready for Friday. I cannot wait. So, but everybody, that has been our Snacktendo. We're going to get into our Game Fact events. Jacob, returning to the spotlight. He is going to be taking over our Game Fact events this episode. So, Jacob, take it away.
Yeah, so we've got Nintendo E3 coming up, and the big thing that literally everybody is talking about but nobody has any information on is whether or not Nintendo will announce a Nintendo Switch Pro. That got me interested in the idea of how often have they actually announced consoles or even focused on consoles at E3, and surprisingly, not a lot. Actual announcements for consoles at E3 is the Nintendo Wii. That's it. Everything else has been announced previously or shortly after, but there hasn't been very many announcements at E3. Now, I was wondering how often did they focus on consoles, so that's where our Game Fact Advance comes in. I'm going to list Nintendo console systems focused at E3 and along with like some other major events, right? So the very first one was the Virtual Boy, a critical success in my opinion, and Earthbound was featured at E3 in 1995. The Nintendo 64 and Super Mario 64 was featured at E3 1996. The GameCube and Super Smash Bros. Melee were featured at E3 2011 or 2001. Nintendo DS, and the big thing for that was that Reggie Fils-Aimé is about kicking ass, taking names, and making games at E3 2004. So we got the DS and Reggie in the same E3. The Nintendo Wii and the Wii Sports game was featured in E3 2006. And then 4 years later, the 3DS and what I thought was the best E3 Nintendo has ever had because of all the nostalgia that they announced was E3 2010. And then the Wii U and Zelda turning 25 was E3 2011. And that was the last time they featured a console at E3. So
Jake,
what I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I just had a question about that. That 25th anniversary of Zelda, was that when they had the disastrous demo for Skyward Sword?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was the announcement of Skyward Sword, and the announcement for the Wii U, and the terrible like motion control problem. Yeah, which makes sense because there's a lot of wireless signals around at E3.
Well, that,
but that brings me
plus
into
like the lighting, right? I think the lighting was what really threw it off because like technically, if you have the Wii set up and you don't have a sensor bar, you can just set two candles next to your TV and it'll like somehow read it or something weird.
What?
Yeah, it's like really weird. It's like it uses really weird infrared tech. It's strange. You should look it up. People are doing it.
That is really strange.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
There's an extra Game Fact Advance for you. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Star Road of Game Fact Advance.
Star Road. But so that all brings me to, like I said, Nintendo did their only console reveal at E3 2006 with the Nintendo Wii, and then they didn't really do a whole bunch of reveals after that. And Nintendo actually set what we're featuring this year, a digital standard in 2013 with their announcement to not hold a traditional E3. So they weren't actually at the show in 2013. And that's when we started getting a lot of the Nintendo Directs. And they did more of a Treehouse focus at E3, but we had a pre-recorded show for their announcements at E3. So we're doing all of that this year because we have to be digital this year, but Nintendo really set the standard for that. And as we see, we've got the State of Play, and then what's the Xbox digital event called?
Xbox.
It's just called X or Inside Xbox, I think is what it's called.
Inside Xbox. So like that all kind of started because of Nintendo. Well, not because of, but they were the front runners of that whole thing. Yeah. So that's our Game Fact Advance.
Man, what a just talk about Nintendo Directs for a second, man. I know it's our docked mode, but just like what a smart way to deliver information, right? Oh, so good.
And all very packaged together by the Iwata.
Yeah.
Directly to you.
Yeah.
Like, man.
Yes.
Oh, I miss him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, thank you, Jacob, for that Game Fact Advance. We're going to turn it over to Femi News. David, welcome back. Take it away.
Right. Thank you. Well, I really enjoyed that Game Fact Advance. It really brought me back thinking about all the places Nintendo's been over the years. And so glad that we're within the week of E3. So I'm excited.
I'm so excited.
Well, our first story, speaking of the company that's been a trendsetter for a while now, Nintendo Museum to open by 2024. So this reporting is from Mad Pharmacist 10112 from BossRushGames.com. This just in, Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa released a statement early yet today for plans of a Nintendo Museum. The company plans to transform their Uji Ogura plant in Kyoto into a gallery to showcase all the products they released over the decades. The Uji Ogura plant has operated as a product repairs customer service center as well as a manufacturing center for playing cards and Hanafuda cards. Nintendo envisions the Nintendo Gallery, which is their tentative name, to be complete with the 2023 fiscal year, which ends in March of 2024. Although no specifics were outlined, the company intends to include, quote, exhibits and experiences. So this would be a wonderful opportunity for Nintendo to showcase its history and culture. The original Nintendo Entertainment System was launched over 30 years ago, and the company has sold over 790 million units and more than 5 billion games worldwide. And of course, Nintendo headquarters is located in Japan. So for our panel, we want to think about this for a moment. Nintendo has been one of the most storied companies in history, existing as an entertainment producer since 1889. What are your reactions to Nintendo's plans to create a museum? What surprises might we find on display? And what would you be most excited for? So Ed, as kind of our resident Nintendo historian, I'd like to get your take first. What do you think about this idea of a Nintendo museum, and what kind of things might we expect to find there?
I think this is great. Nintendo has a history of making products that we in America, we never got to experience and everything. So if we're planning to go to Japan or Kyoto, we'll be able to go experience stuff that people in Japan have known for years. And some of the young kids who has just now realized who Nintendo is, they could recognize their past. One of the things that I believe that they can really showcase is kind of some of their arcade games. Nintendo used to make arcade games back in the day, and a lot of people don't know about that. Like, I played Punch Out on NES, didn't realize it was an arcade game before it came to NES.
With the wireframe Little Mac.
Yeah. Playing the Nintendo Versus of Mario, and maybe they could have that Super Mario Brothers 3 arcade cabinet where you used to pay 25 cents and get 3 minutes to play. They could bring that back, and so I think people could go there and get a better understanding who Nintendo is and their history and the industry.
All right, awesome. Jacob, what about you?
Well, I'm excited Corey allowed me to announce that he actually went ahead and greenlit the funding for everyone on Pow Block to be going to this on the official launch day.
It's a Boss Rush company retreat.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Corey, for supplying the funding for that.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate you, boss.
You're welcome. I'll cut that check right now.
Yeah. But no, in reality, we were kind of talking about it a little bit pre-show, but I'm interested to know if this is going to be focused on Nintendo's time in the gaming industry, or if they are going to talk about a lot of their weirder things, like how they made Hanafuda cards. That's how they opened up. We were talking about how they had a chain of love hotels, if you get what we're talking about there. They also did they made food. They partnered, everybody knows that they partnered, or they wanted to make the original Donkey Kong game based off of Popeye. And that's because they originally had a license agreement to make ramen featuring Popeye. So I wonder how far back this is going to go, or if it's going to be based only in their gaming industry time. That's what I would be really interested in. And then I also would like to see if they feature not just the things that Nintendo have created, but the more, I don't want to say more noteworthy, because I feel like everyone that works there would be noteworthy, but the more prominent figures, if they have a history of their time and what they've done in the company and what they're credited to and things like that.
Nick, you're somebody that has a perspective beyond just Nintendo. what do you think of this idea that Nintendo would open up a museum? Is that something that's a worthwhile endeavor? Should other companies consider following suit, or is Nintendo a little different? What's your take on that?
I think Nintendo doing this opens up the doors for other companies such as Sony or Microsoft even to follow suit. I mean, there's really no excuse not to at this point. Each company has a very interesting history, especially Nintendo. So with Nintendo, you got over, a century of history to go through, like the playing cards and all that. So I really think Nintendo doing this should put pressure on other companies to follow suit in their footsteps, because I would love to go to a museum, especially a Nintendo-themed museum. I'm not a big Nintendo guy, but like to be able to go there and learn history, see original products, see an original Nintendo card deck just in the glass, I would freak out. So it would be cool if other companies like Microsoft or Sony would do the same thing, or like if PC gaming had its own like small traveling museum, like to see like old rigs and examples of LAN parties. And I really think, or like what LAN parties used to be, right? Before Discord and TeamSpeak and Ventrilo, I really think that it's good, and I would love to go to a Nintendo museum. I would love it. Again, to see like all the cool products that we don't have, that we've never gotten in America, to have a chance to go there and see it and basically almost have it in your hands. Plus that gift shop, I'm a sucker for merch. And I know for a fact you put like a cool Nintendo history book in front of me, gone, swipe, just take my money. Anything with Link on it, gone, swipe, take my money. I don't care. Sheikah, gone, swipe, take my money. Like, this is a good idea, and I think other companies will follow suit. So I would love to see this happen.
You bring up some good points there, and I almost wonder, just like there's like Disneyland packages you can get, I wonder with the museum and Nintendo World if there'd be some kind of entertainment package that you could get as you travel to Japan, and if we'd even get like a Nintendo of America museum as like a counterpart for when the Nintendo World opens here. So I think it's an interesting idea. And to your point about the other companies, gaming history has evolved so quickly and rapidly that even though it's a short amount of time, I mean, there is so much history to go through. Imagine having like, a Panasonic section for 3DO, or, some of these other systems that didn't make it in
ColecoVision.
Or that weird GameCube that like had the Panasonic DVD player in it that we didn't get here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Corey, I wanted to get you in on this actually. So I know on Boss Rush a few weeks ago, you had this discussion about whether video games should be considered art. If we get a museum where stuff is stored, does that sort of further ante up that conversation a little bit about video games being treated as art?
I mean, I think that Nintendo has a very interesting history in terms of their products, and not just recent history, right? Like there was somebody's. Let me kind of back up here. The video game industry right now is in this weird state of preservation, right? How do we preserve games? How do we preserve old games? Do we remaster them? Do we keep them as they are? Do we dump ROM code? Like, how do we clean the older cartridges? Because you think of those older NES games, those things are approaching 50 years old. I mean, it's sad, but like they are, right? PS1 games are starting to see disc degradation, right? Just because they're 25, 30 years old. Like a CD is gonna degrade over time. So I think with what a lot of private companies are doing with video game archiving and preservation and stuff, I think that you see someone as big as Nintendo, kind of like what Nick said, right? Where you see a company as big as Nintendo starting to take this seriously, and not just with Nintendo games, but with their cards and their history of other things that they've done. Like, this is a big deal. And I think displaying, the graph paper that Miyamoto would design levels on, right? Like you see these old pictures like that, or that would be amazing, and we did have that discussion on if video games were art, and to me, it's like it's a way more complicated answer than just or no, especially these days. But like, you look at what they were doing with graph paper, or drawing on napkins, or playing around with certain things, or building, replicas on their desks of these things, and you see them experimenting with, like, you look at that GameCube demo of 128 Marios, ended up being Pikmin, right? You start to see not only the products that they've put out, but prototypes, or things that never made it off the drawing board. Like, you just see all these really cool things, and you're like, wow, look what they do. And I think that's where this museum is going to shine. Like, if they release prototypes of things that never made it to market, or a lot of people don't know that the Wii remote started as a GameCube accessory, right? Like, you would plug it into the GameCube hole, I guess you call it, and it worked like the microphone for Mario Party, right? Like, you just plugged it in and used it, right? And then they're like, no, we should add this to a console. But what does that GameCube prototype look like? Nobody really knows. That'd be so cool to go see something so, like, irrelevant, but part of Nintendo's history, nonetheless.
You talked a little bit about some of these games reaching 50 years old, and one thing that I think is really interesting is U.S. copyright law is generally 70 years plus the life of an artist. So we are not quite there yet, but in the next 20 to 30 years, some of those early games will become public domain. So it is really interesting to think about, the original Donkey Kong or Super Mario becoming, that code essentially becoming public domain. What happens then? Yeah, that we're going to start seeing that, because I'm in a lot of, like, Disney circles, right? Like, I follow a lot of Disney people. Steamboat Mickey.
Like, Mickey's 90th birthday just happened. Is Mickey Mouse really going to be public domain someday? Like, or does Disney have enough money to just say, hey, don't let anybody use this?
Change the law.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like things that last this long, when those laws were made, did they really think anything like that was going to last 90, 100, 120 years,
No.
Absolutely not.
I feel like stuff like this Nintendo Museum, or the stuff that Disney's doing with the Disney Museum in Burbank or something, I feel like this is going to drive people to kind of change the way things like that are thought of, and maybe the laws will change. And I know there's a lot of, like, corporate stuff behind the scenes, whatever. I'm sure Disney is not going to let Mickey Mouse get away, right? But
oh no,
I think people are going to start thinking like this, and I just think this is a really cool idea.
You know what the museum's going to do?
It's
Give
good.
more people the opportunity to learn about Rob the Robot.
I think
want my old
As
one
they
back.
no.
should.
The
As they
museum,
should.
the museum is just a giant amiibo, and you have to buy a ticket to go.
oh wow.
No, not dealing with that.
All right. We got to go on to our next story here. So this is a bit of an obvious one. Nintendo's E3 2021 Direct has been announced. So this report is from IGN and Adam Bankhurst reporting, quote, Nintendo has announced that it will be hosting a roughly 40-minute E3 2021 Nintendo Direct on June 15 at 9 a.m. Pacific. Revealed on Twitter, the Nintendo Direct will be followed by 3 hours of gameplay in the Nintendo Treehouse live show. As with most Nintendo Direct announcements, the company gave no further details as to what fans can expect from E3's 2021 show, but many will undoubtedly be hoping for updates on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, a possible new Mario game, a potential celebration of Legend of Zelda's 35th anniversary, Bayonetta 3, and much more. It did say the Direct will be focused exclusively on Nintendo Switch software, releasing mostly in 2021. So, no surprises here, as Nintendo seems to be that spot on the last day pretty consistently. However, what do we make of this as a business strategy? Would it be beneficial for Nintendo to give its presentation at an earlier day in time? Is E3 set up once again for Nintendo to steal the show? Corey, what do you think?
Sorry, I had to go first. No. You go last, you're the last thing everybody talks about, and you're the only thing anybody talks about for the next week. I think that's always been Microsoft's problem, is they always go first, and then they get lost in the shuffle, right? Like they're going to get lost with Ubisoft and Capcom and whatever. Nintendo, everybody's going to talk about Nintendo anyway, but you put them last and come out with something big, they're the company everybody's going to talk about for the rest of the week because they went last.
Ed, what do you think? You agree with what Corey's saying?
Yeah, Nintendo is always what everybody's talking about when it comes to E3. The thing about it is just like if those previous press conferences are boring, and Nintendo shows like 2 to 3 games that's just right that everybody get hyped about, they're gonna steal the conversation and everything. You can have the best trailers, the best looking thing, best moments, but if Nintendo do it right, they're going to steal the show. They're going to keep the talk of the town. And then you got Treehouse Live that you're going to be watching for additional announcements that's not in the direct.
Exactly.
So that's going to keep more talks because after the 15th, the breakdowns and stuff are going to happen, but everybody's still going to be looking and talking about Nintendo. Like I said earlier, Nintendo is going to be trending.
Yeah.
And if Nintendo's trending at the start of E3 to the end of E3, that just shows that Nintendo got this.
Ed, how many times do we go back to when we covered E3, a couple years ago? Well, I guess it was 2017 at this point, where we were talking and we had to stop our recording because they announced a Metroid game and they were showing off Pokemon footage at Treehouse. We had to stop our recap that year and start over because they still had more things to show through the next 5 hours.
Not last year, 2019, out that Friday, they last show, they did a Donkey Kong arcade game that's never been released for I think for Switch, or it may have been Wii U, but they had additional announcement and stuff. So Nintendo got everything planned out. Everybody else is just like, I can't believe they showed this game, and it takes to steal the show.
All right, but hold on, Nick. The fanboy air is getting pretty thick in here. So can you give us a non-fanboy perspective? What is Nintendo smart for going the last day? Do we think Nintendo's going to steal the show again this year? Square Enix has got some good stuff coming. We know Bethesda is teaming up with Xbox. What are your perspectives?
Yeah, so I think Nintendo is very, very, very intelligent to always pick the last day. They just are. Like Corey said, Microsoft goes first. So usually E3 is like, we'll talk about the main three. Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. That's always how it's gone. It goes Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. And I really think it's smart on Nintendo to go last. But here's the thing. You have Sony, which, they're not there, but just for instance here. You have Sony and Microsoft who have released new consoles. The PS5 is out. The Xbox Series is out. So Microsoft has a big opportunity here to go crazy with this E3, especially with how stacked it's going to be. They have their game studios plus Bethesda. Yeah, it's a big show for them.
They have 23 studios to talk about this year. So
yes,
this is the thing about it. If no one is miming anything from anybody else's conference, you are not having a good conference.
I don't know. That Phil Spencer with the Xbox Series X Bazooka is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, and the Xbox Fridge, but. In my opinion, I think Nintendo needs to drop some heavy hitters. Mm-hmm. They just do. Breath of the Wild 2, we should see something from that. Metroid, we should see something from that. Switch, give us some new Switch hardware. Let's get talking about what's next for Nintendo down the line. Let's get people hyped for that. We've been waiting for. We got teased Breath of the Wild 2, right? But the Treehouse event, I think, is where they're going to shine. 3 hours of added footage, added games that aren't going to be discussed in the direct.
One more thing to add, I think a lot of people listen to all the speakers in the Nintendo Direct than anybody else. Like Keanu Reeves took over Microsoft over Phil Spencer and everybody else. But
it's Keanu Reeves.
Right, but if like Anuma and Furukawa and even the Pokemon Company, if they come out and they speak, everybody who's watching it is listening.
Right. So I think Nintendo has a big opportunity here.
Jacob, you'll close us out here. Given the lineup that we've seen so far, without making predictions, obviously we'll talk more about that later. But who wins E3 this year? Is Nintendo the name that we're talking about when it's all done? What do you think?
So I to play devil's advocate to what they were saying, I do think that Nintendo's name will be who we're talking about because of their going last, because they'll be the last thing that everyone knows. People who tune in late to things will end up seeing Nintendo's stuff because it's the last thing that they can catch. However, that can backfire if you have a bad press conference and you are the last press conference, especially because we have things like Breath of the Wild 2, we have Metroid Prime 4, we have Bayonetta 3, we have everything going on with the Switch Pro. If they don't deliver on all of these high expectations that people have for no reason other than rumors, it's gonna fall flat, and it's through no fault of their own. Other than that, they allow this sort of thing to like they don't crush it when it's starting to rise, right? They don't come out and say, we're not talking about a Switch Pro. It's not going to happen.
Right. The internet is a place of, if there's no confirmation, or if you say nothing, that basically is confirmation, right? Like that's the way the internet is, whether that's right or wrong. That's just how it is.
Yeah, and so they set themselves up. And the thing that I'm worried about, because in the past, this has been fine, and the Nintendo has been talked about a lot. Like I said, 2010, when they dropped all the nostalgia, they dropped like every single game that was on the SNES that was a big hitter, came back for the Wii and the 3DS, right? But if they don't do that this year, because they have new management, they have new people higher up, especially in Nintendo of America, that might not be pushing as hard to get these big announcements coming to E3. And if they don't do that, then it's not going to be, wow, Nintendo's press conference was so great. It's going to be, wow, Nintendo really let us down. They suck. Mm-hmm. And I don't want it to be, obviously. I'm a Nintendo fanboy. I love Nintendo, but like they really put themselves between a rock and a hard place with this. But there's no denying that they're going to be what everyone talks about.
All right. Well, speaking of Nintendo, we're going to stick with Nintendo on this next story. This is also from Boss Rush's own Mad Pharmacist. Nintendo Switch sales milestone made in Japan. Quote, the Nintendo Switch launched back in 2017, and it is still a hot item on the market. Famitsu is reporting that sales in Japan alone have surpassed 20 million units between March 3rd, 2017 to May 23rd, 2021. The Lite makes up just under 4 million of that statistic at approximately 3.8 million, while the standard Switch made the bulk of the sales at 16 million. In addition to that, Famitsu also listed the top 5 best-selling games in Japan. Animal Crossing at 6.7 million units, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at 4.3 million units, Pokemon Sword and Shield at 4 million units, Splatoon 2 at 3.8 million, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 3.8 million. To put this in perspective, Statista.com reports as of May 2021 that 85.7 million units sold worldwide, with North America consuming 32 million of those units. Nintendo's president had alluded to the fact that the Switch is around the mid-stage of its life cycle in a Japanese publication, Nikkei, in February of 2021. So, panel, what are your reactions to this story? Given how well Nintendo's doing, given all of the smoke and possibly fire about Switch Pro, is this the right time to release a Switch Pro? Putting aside our everybody's desire for some news around this, would Nintendo be crazy to release something like that right now with these numbers? Corey, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I feel like as much as we want a Switch Pro, right? It's the same reason Mario Kart 9's not coming out, right? Is because Mario Kart 8 has sold almost 40 million units on the Switch, right? Like they'd be really dumb to put out another one right now. It could be done, right? It could be ready to go, and when you start seeing Mario Kart 8's numbers start going down, then you release it, right? But the Switch, they've already said they're aiming to sell double what they sold last year, right? And some report like a couple months ago, they're like, we're doubling our whatever, even with the chip shortage. It's like, well, the Switch is still selling like hotcakes. Why would you put out another one, like a more powerful one? But also, like, the 3DS was selling well, and they redesigned that a couple times. They put out an XL.
That's a good point.
They put out the 2DS, which I have and I really love, right? I don't know. I feel like it's a cool thing to think about to keep momentum going, but when you already have that much momentum, does it really matter? I don't know. I really want to Switch Pro because I have a launch day Switch and it is crying out for help every time I turn it on. And
My fan is getting pretty bad.
Yeah, dude, I was shopping the eShop. I was in the eShop the other day, and all of a sudden I just heard, and then the HD rumble started going off on the Joy-Con. I'm like, I gotta turn this off because this is just nuts.
Wow.
But I've been holding out because I desperately want a Switch Pro, but at the end of the day, Nintendo doesn't really need to, right? They just don't need to. So,
Jacob, what are your thoughts on this? Would it be crazy for Nintendo to release a Switch Pro right now?
No, I don't think it would be crazy. I think, like what Corey said, I think Nintendo is no stranger to cannibalizing their own profits, especially between having a handheld console and a handheld system and a at-home console in the past. Mm-hmm. They also, the last couple big Zelda titles have released on 2 consoles with no problems. They sell really well. Zelda Breath of the Wild outsold the Switch at the beginning. Like it had a 102% throughput rate or something. Like, it was crazy. But do they need to? No, they don't need to, but they could easily keep the Switch on the market, the regular Switch, the launch day Switch on the market, come out with the Switch Pro and just drop the launch day Switch in price.
Yeah,
and
the rumor is they're going to phase it out, and this is just going to replace it. Is the big rumor.
And that's possible too, though, because they have the Switch Lite. Like they're not strangers to having 2 versions of their consoles out. So it's just a matter of what route they want to take. I've always been kind of iffy on the Switch Lite because a Switch that doesn't switch just doesn't seem smart to me. But they did it and it sells well. So hey, what are you gonna do?
I like it.
Yeah, well,
and let me say, as a parent, it's the only reason my kids have a Switch. So
yeah, so I get it, but if they dropped the Switch to the current price of the Switch Lite, or maybe like $20-$50 more, $25-$50 more, and they phased out the Switch Lite, then you'd have 2 consoles that switch, and you would still have the hardcore console for people that want to put out the money, and the regular console for people who don't.
Well, what you could do is drop the Switch Lite to $150.
Yeah,
drop the current Switch to $200, and then make this $300, right? Or $350, or whatever you want to charge it at.
Absolutely. And
go ahead, Jacob.
Well, all I was going to say is that the chip shortage thing doesn't. So if they're using different, if it really is a much stronger system, they're using different hardware. So they could absolutely still ramp up production of this one, and then.
Plus, they're not using the same chips that PlayStation and Microsoft are using, and they're using different chips than cell phones. So they kind of have this chip all to themselves, right? So it's not really a shortage.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So
yeah. Nintendo is famous for buying old school hardware and pumping it to get the most out of it so that it's cheap. The only system they've ever sold at a loss was the Wii U.
All right. Well, Ed, I know you have a lot to say on this, so we're going to get to you in 1 second, but I want to get Nick in on this, and then Ed, you'll close this out. So what are your thoughts on this, Nick?
Yeah, so I think it's a good and bad thing for them to try to do this, right? It'll definitely work. But here's the problem with releasing a Switch Pro right now. Good luck getting one. It's going to be the exact same thing that happened with PS5 and the Xbox Series X. That and the V2, the Switch V2 came out last 2 years?
A year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not saying that's by any means what the Switch Pro is going to be, but I'm fine with my Switch, right? But people like Corey and you guys who actually play your Switches, especially Corey, now his Switch is about to yeet itself off a cliff. He needs a new Switch. So what's the point in him buying a V2 or a Lite when the Pro is around the corner? So for him and you guys for sure, but it's just I think Nintendo will run into that problem where how are we going to combat scalpers? How are we going to get these into the consumer's hands? Especially right now, we're all still in this fog of quarantine, right? So it's getting better, but it's not to where it needs to be, especially for these companies to mass produce.
Yeah, they're not even selling the Xbox and PlayStation in store yet, right? I mean, I think so. There's been some Xbox Series S images floated out, right? Where
there's lucky, man.
Yeah, so
I've been trying to get mine forever. So, Ed, let's get you in to close this topic out. What are your thoughts, Ed?
Hold on. Jacob want to say something.
Real
ahead,
quick,
Jacob.
I just want to. Nick said something that made me think. What they really need to do, what they absolutely need to do, is they need to announce that they're not announcing it and that they're not gonna release it, or they need to say it's coming in 2024. Like 2020, 2023, 2022, whatever, so that the people who, like Corey, have a system that they're like, oh, this is dying, they can go, okay, I can buy this replacement system and then save up and still buy the Pro when it comes out. Like that's what they need to do, I think. But that's all I wanted to say. Sorry.
Nintendo, think of the consumers. Wait, what?
Yeah, no company.
Ed, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so okay, so the thing about it is that, and the Nintendo's been saying that we are not working on new hardware. We have nothing planned. It's us making the expectations that they need to release something and everything. So that all that disappointment and everything that happens, that's on us because we're creating the expectation. If Nintendo needs to do this, they need to only do it for one reason, and that's Unreal Engine 5. Because of this chip is in the Switch right now is custom made. It was designed to do Unreal Engine 4, and we've seen what Nintendo can do with Unreal Engine because of Breath of the Wild. Now that Unreal Engine 5 is slowly becoming available, we don't know if this chip thing can do it. We don't know if third parties going to be able to be porting games or doing games with Unreal Engine 5 for the old Switch, or how indies are going to take Unreal Engine 5 and do it with Switch. So if they need to do a Pro that can handle Unreal Engine 5, I think it's going to come down later on in the line, because that engine is going to be really important to a lot of developers unless they have their own engine that can work on Switch Pro or the regular Switch. So at this point in time, we'll see what happens. For the numbers with Japan and stuff, that's good to hear. And the thing that's driving it is software. Software is always going to continue making the system switch because, of course, word of mouth. But the software that's available for everywhere, that's here in America and in Japan, their software is helping them sell the system and everything. Japan got some software that we don't have yet, and that's selling games in that country. Selling systems. So that is my thought. I'm happy to hear that 20 million in one country and it's growing and everything. And I think even with PlayStation 5 and Xbox One becoming available, mostly in Japan, PlayStation 5, that would be the competition for Nintendo and what they do, because Japan don't have nothing to do with Microsoft. Microsoft is not selling anything in that country. But when it comes to America and maybe in the UK, Nintendo's going to have to think, how do we keep up with them? Do we go back and get the exclusive? Do we go get canceled games and bring them up to our system to make people be like, they got this game from this developer? I thought that was canceled. Oh, it's finished. They're bringing it to Switch. I'm going to get me a Switch so I can play that game. And... last but thing, and also still working with PC games with their crossover with titles and stuff. It's going to get Nintendo has been hitting everybody with stuff with their software, and that is selling that system. So, go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I keep talking over other people's segments. I'm bad at being on a podcast. There was a rumor.
Stop trying to be so conversational, Jacob.
There's a rumor. I'm sorry. There was a rumor that happened after Microsoft announced that Dragon Scale game.
Mm-hmm.
Scalebound, yes. There was a rumor that Nintendo was taking that on, and they were going to bring it to their console. And I got so excited about that because I was like, ooh, maybe I need to buy an Xbox because that game looks good. And then it never happened. But like that, yeah, absolutely. If they went back and got canceled games, or if they got games that people, if they got but like smaller developers to take on titles that they haven't put out in a long time, like that would bring people in for sure.
All right, I'm going off script here for a second.
Oh no, David's going off script. Write this down.
And what Ed said about Microsoft having zero luck at selling in Japan. If we get this rumored or, discussed Game Pass on Switch, Microsoft Nintendo collaboration. Is that Microsoft's ticket into getting some revenue out of Japan? Corey, what do you think about that? Ed says no.
It's because Ed doesn't believe in Game Pass, even though 30 million people disagree with him.
All right, hold on.
I think Microsoft wants Game Pass on as many platforms that will let them, right? And we've kind of seen Nintendo and Xbox kind of be buddy-buddy. You've seen a few Xbox published games on Switch. We've seen Switches in the backgrounds of Xbox executives, right? When during their conferences and stuff, and like the first one was Phil Spencer, right? And he's like, it's on his shelf in his home, whatever. You look at the video of Sarah Bond or Major Nelson, they're in a studio, and that Switch is placed front and center, right, while they're discussing certain things. And that to me tells me that they are trying to work with Nintendo on something. Now, what we kind of discussed on a couple other shows is it's going to be like a really curated version of Game Pass, right? Like, I feel like if there's some indies that are available to purchase on Switch, Nintendo's going to want to make money off of those indies as opposed to letting Microsoft have them on Game Pass and not pay for them, right? But I think this is a really interesting way to allow Microsoft to get into a quote-unquote handheld market, get into the Japanese market, and they won't have to sell their boxes to do that, right? Because the Japanese culture is very into handheld gaming. That's why mobile phones are so popular. That's why the PSP was so popular. That's why the DS and 3DS continue to be popular. And I think Microsoft sees that, and they want to try to take advantage of it, and Nintendo is their ticket to that because of how successful the Switch is. Okay. Go ahead, Ed. Hate
Let's
me.
hear it.
Okay, so the East do not play Western games like we do. The East does not play Dragon Age. The East is not playing Gears of War. The East is not playing anything that
Yakuza, Kingdom Hearts, Dragon Quest, right. Final Fantasy. But those are all on Game Pass, Ed.
Right, the East has been playing those games. Don't forget, they've been in the West for a long time.
Where are they playing them? Because the PlayStation 4 sold less than 10 million units. So tell me where they're playing them.
I'm talking about PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 when those series started. Yes, they are playing games in the East, but I'm saying the East are not playing Western games. You mentioned Eastern games that America is playing. The people in the East have been playing that because it's in Japan. They're not playing the stuff that Microsoft is designing, or even some of Sony stuff is designing. We did a NPD list of how many games that is being played in Japan and selling, and they're all been Nintendo. Every week that's coming out, it's all been Nintendo, and most of the games have been designed in Japan. And when has anything like Gears 5 or even Forza Motorsport or Forza Horizon has been even talked about in Japan?
They aren't, because Xbox isn't selling consoles.
If it's on Game Pass, if it's on Game Pass,
if it's on Game Pass on a console that everybody owns,
they still wouldn't even play it. They still.
All right, this is what I get for.
Ed, you're making my head hurt. My head really hurts now.
Nick and Jacob, quick thought on this from each of you. If Game Pass were to be on Switch, is that Microsoft's path into Japan? We'll start with you, Nick.
Yeah, it'll help, right? It's Microsoft getting a piece of that pie, and that's what they want. I think teaming up and releasing with Nintendo certain time, it's going to be very curated, what Corey said, but I think it's a good strategy. It'll be interesting, but Ed's right, they're not going to play games like Gears and Forza. They don't care. They want their games, they want them handheld. So Microsoft needs to find a happy medium here, and they need to do it right, or else that's even more of they're getting kicked further and further out at that point if they mess it up.
All right, Corey, you got something to say, and then Jacob will finish.
Yeah, there was a rumor for a while, and I think it's been debunked at this point. But there was a rumor that Microsoft was going to team up with Sega and actually publish it as a Sega Xbox in Japan to try to create more appeal for their box. That was a rumor floating around before the series consoles came out.
All right, Jacob, take us home here on this issue. What do you think? Good idea, bad idea? How would this work out for Microsoft?
I think it would be a good idea for Microsoft. I think that saying that there people in Japan aren't going to play, or people in the East aren't going to play these games because they don't ever play these games. They don't ever play them because those consoles aren't popular. But if you put them on a console that's popular, why not? You know, like we talk about games that we buy all the time that were $5 on sale, and we never would have bought it otherwise. But hey, it's cheap. Why not give it a try? So I think that they could do that. However.
Well, we got to get Jacob as the last word, Ed. No. Jacob's going to take home.
Well, so what I was going to say is, however, I am really adamant that Microsoft and Nintendo are never going to come to an agreement on getting Xbox Game Pass on any Nintendo console. I think that so there are games that you can buy on Nintendo Switch from Nintendo that are on Game Pass, and I think that cannibalizes their sales from not within their own company. And they don't want to do that. They want to make every penny they can off of you. Yeah. Both companies do. And so I think the most that we'll see is stuff like Ori. We'll see we might even see some of the smaller AAA titles come, you know, but I don't think we will ever see Game Pass on the Switch.
Where's the rare replay?
All right. No, we got to keep it moving, Ed. We got one more story.
Nope. You're done.
Ed, I want to hear you write about it in Boss Rush Band.
That's right. Ed, you can write an editorial. Next story: Nintendo wins $2.1 million in a lawsuit against a ROM site. This is from NintendoEverything.com. Thank you, Brian, from Nintendo Everything. You may recall that back in 2019, Nintendo filed a lawsuit against ROM website ROM Universe. The case has now concluded with the judge ruling in the company's favor. Nintendo said the situation involving ROM Universe was, quote, a straightforward video game privacy case. The company explained that over a decade, the site was populated with pirated copies of thousands of different Nintendo games and distributed hundreds of thousands of copies of those pirated games. ROM Universe also sold premium accounts, allowing users to download an unlimited amount of titles. Matthew Storman, who hosted the website, defended himself in court and denied that ROM Universe provided pirated ROMs. He also said that he himself never uploaded any games. U.S. District Court Judge Consuelo Marshall settled the matter by largely siding with Nintendo and accepting trademark infringement claims. All right, panel. Are people going to finally stop pirating Nintendo IPs? Does this award of $2.1 million do anything to change people's behaviors? Other reactions to the story. Nick, we'll start with you as our computer guy. What do you think?
No, this isn't going to stop anything. No one. Yeah, you may have hit one guy, but that one guy spawns 10 other guys. Those 10 guys spawn 20. That 20 eventually becomes 100. 100 becomes 1,000. Websites like that get archived. The code and everything there is there. You can swipe it and make your own site and upload and do and whatever you need to do. Torrenting is never going to die. And people like it's a Robin Hood thing too for companies like Nintendo. I don't know many people who would steal indies because of that. Like I'm not condoning this either. But stealing from Nintendo, I'm sure it gives people like that. Ooh, I got Breath of the Wild on my PC. Insanity. I got Breath of the Wild and I ported it on my Xbox. I'm playing with an Xbox controller. That's all. I've seen it. So why would you not do it? And this lawsuit does nothing. It's not going to change anything. This guy is in some hot water. It sucks to be you. Also, why the hell would you defend yourself?
Yeah, right.
It doesn't suck to be him. I'm going to say this as myself and not as someone from Boss Rush, but dude, that guy's an idiot.
No, he's a moron. Exactly. No, my thing is it sucks to suck because you suck, dude. So,
all right, Jacob, tell us more what you think.
No one's gonna get this out of the way. That everyone on here will tell you that we don't condone this at all. Don't pirate games. It's illegal. Don't do it. Yeah. But it's not gonna stop. The another Metroid 2 remake got taken down by Nintendo, and that they can't do anything about it. You can still download it today. And it got taken down. They did this. They took it down, and you can still download it, just like what Nick said. As soon as somebody else has it, it's gone. You have no control anymore.
Wildfire.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that it will make some of the other sites out there rethink their subscriptions and rethink their paid memberships and rethink those things that could get them into financial legal trouble. But No, it's not going away at all. But this guy, man, I heard about this and I just started laughing because, like, number one, no matter what you're doing, don't represent yourself in court. That's rule number
Nintendo.
one. Like, yeah, and against a multi-million-dollar company, no, absolutely not. And number two, it was like he talked about how, like, well, I never personally I didn't never upload anything onto the site. Yeah, but you hosted it. That'd be like saying your friends went out and robbed a bank and then you put the money in your account, but you didn't steal it. I didn't steal the money. Yeah, no, that's so stupid. This guy's such a moron.
He's an asshole.
All right, Ed, we cut you off last time, so I know you have a lot to say about this as something that comes up a lot. Ed, what's your take on all this?
Nintendo, get your coins. Get your money.
God,
Get
They're not
your
going to see a dime, Ed. This guy doesn't have $2.1 million.
the crazy thing, because with the court case, reading part of it, it sounded like he was contradicting himself at times. I didn't do nothing, but I did upload this to make sure that it was. And then it was just like, you just told the court, you just literally told the judge that you didn't do nothing, but broke down everything that you took part in. So that should be like, we're going to just award them because you just automatically lied. So
Moron.
Like Jacob said, do not represent yourself if you ain't been to law school or anything, not read the law, but not even watch the Legal Ego on YouTube. Like, do not do that. Second of all, do not pirate your games. If you want a good representation of something like this, there's a People's Court episode where a guy had modified a Wii and they went to court about this. It's on YouTube. Watch it. You will be surprised of this. He is just a dum-dum. This don't even get a good googly moogly gas. He is just a complete dum-dum. He don't do this stuff. Everybody just go and buy the games when they first come out. Buy it digitally, support these developers, and call it a day. Own it. Yes, you are paying for the license, and they have the right to revoke that license at any time. That's the gamble of video games. But that's why physical is always important. Just go buy the physical version if you can, and keep it on your system. Do not do stuff like this.
And if you really care about having Breath of the Wild on your PC, learn about coding. Learn how to do it yourself, because it's not illegal. If you go out and purchase the game, it is not illegal to make as many copies as you want for yourself on any system you want to make it on. You can do whatever you want for yourself, as long as you don't do it for others or sell it to anybody. That they will never be able to come after you. That teach yourself a new skill, then get a job, and then you can make your own game company that'll get pirated.
Then you'll be the one going, again.
You mentioned the Metroid 2 remake. Milton, that we talked about, World 1, he went to Moon Studio and helped make Ori the Blind Forest 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you can do something, and plus, yes, it did get taken down, but we got Samus Return instead. So.
Well, and then again, learning to do this yourself. Companies pay hackers all the time to break their product.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Nintendo did it with the 3DS.
Yeah. So don't be lazy. If you're gonna put in the work to do something illegal, do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bug hunt, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Corey, Nick mentioned this whole Robin Hood perspective a little bit, and the glee or the joy that comes from sort of stealing from big companies. We've talked in the past about Nintendo having a little bit of this party pooper mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Does this court case kind of reinforce that a little bit for Nintendo? Did they come out looking ugly in this?
I think the thing that everybody always uses as a defense in downloading old Nintendo games is preservation, right? But it's still wrong, right? Like, I mean, Nintendo has the ability to turn around and sell you the same game 65 times, right? And I don't know why they're not doing it on the Switch with Nintendo 64 and GameCube games, right? But they could. I want to hook up my GameCube so bad and play some of those games, but I have to buy a new converter. I have to buy new component or composite cables. I need to get an HDMI switcher, right? And make sure that the lag isn't bad. There's all these really tough things But then Nintendo turns around and shows you that, oh, we remade Wind Waker. It's great. Here you go. It's on Wii U, which they put on Switch. But like, you can play it on a relatively modern console. Twilight Princess, you can do. GameCube, there's so many great games stuck on the GameCube that like people have been adding to the Dolphin emulator for so long that you're not going to get any better than that now. And it's like, okay, I get it. These people put a lot of hard work into this, but it's still illegal, you know? I don't know. I wish Nintendo would look at this and see how much people want their products and just say, we're working on it. They have the ability to do it. They just did it with Mario Sunshine, right? They just did it with Mario Sunshine and Mario 64. Their emulation technology is there. So, I mean, look at the Virtual Console on the Wii and the Wii U, right? Like, N64 is there. Heck, they did DS games on the Wii U. DS games. That's a terrible way to play Phantom Hourglass, by the way. No,
May I say I do not condone stealing.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't. None of us condone stealing or downloading ROMs or anything, but I do see where people are saying, "Hey, we need to preserve these old games because Nintendo isn't." It's not that Nintendo isn't. It's they're waiting.
They're opening up a museum.
Yeah, belongs in a museum. So I don't know. I feel like Nintendo is waiting for the right time to make this a big marketing moment of them to release these older games. I mean, look at Skyward Sword, right? We're finally getting non-motion controlled Wii games, and I think that is a step in the right direction. I don't know if that's the direction they're going, but that is a step in the right direction, I think. And so, I don't know. This guy's a moron, though. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely. I don't even know if it's that they're waiting for the right marketing moment. It's just that they're making so much money right now, and they know that they could make more off of this, that they're just like, well, let's wait till we bomb again, and then we'll do this, and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Like they have it's like a plan B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, panel. That was great discussion, and that is the end of our family news. So, Ed, we're back to you.
Okay. Paging Dr. David, paging Dr. Jacob, paging Dr. Corey, paging Dr. Nick. Please come to the Doc Mode area to meet Dr. Ed.
None of us are doctors. No medical advice given.
In this Doc Mode, we are dissecting Nintendo's very own Direct. What makes it a Direct? Has it become one of gaming's best strategies to deliver news? What does the future hold for it? How has it changed E3? What kind of Direct will each of us create? Yes, that is a lot of questions, and we're going to tackle them. We are going to be talking about the Nintendo Direct itself. And just a little history for you guys, that the first Nintendo Direct premiered on October 21st, 2011. The 7-minute and 28-second video focused on mainly the 3DS and some other stuff for Wii. They announced that Hulu Plus was coming to Wii and 3DS. Freaky Force, Push Mode, Dylan's Running Western, and Swap Note were games published by Nintendo. They also showed off Pokemon Rumble Blast, Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, The Legend of Zelda Symphony started that day at the Pantish Theater in Los Angeles. And at that time, Reggie Fils-Aimé hosted it. Soon, Satoru Iwata took over, and we kind of got the memes and everything. 2013 was a first digital presentation for E3, and we all tuned in to that one. So let's get into this. Discussion about the Direct. I'm gonna start with you, David. What makes it a Direct?
You mean like if we're splitting hairs about what counts as a Direct and what doesn't, or like emotionally what makes it a good Direct?
What makes it a Nintendo Direct? Like when you watch it, what things do you notice that makes it Direct? What is there something that you get out of it or anything?
The notification the day before this is a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, or sometimes like at midnight. But,
exactly.
We've had this kind of phenomena of indie directs lately, and I know that technically they count as directs for Nintendo, but for me, it has to be when Nintendo actually puts out their own IPs. Like, for me, when we're getting new Mario games, new Zelda games, that's when it feels like it's a real direct. And just that anticipation of, yeah, we're going to get the DC superhero girls, but, just knowing that some of those big platinum titles are coming and wondering what that, but wait, there's more moment. Those are the things that make a direct special. And, I'll also just point out that it feels like Nintendo cuts out the middleman, so to speak, by having these directs that they went straight to fans. And I know they're essentially still presenting to fans when they do things at E3 and whatnot, but it feels like it's building that relationship directly with Nintendo fans, and it feels more intimate in some way. So I guess that would have to be my take on it at first brush.
All right, Jacob, what makes it a direct?
Exactly that Nintendo put together something to tell you specifically about these group of things. Even when it's a specific, even like the Nintendo Mario 35th anniversary direct that was just about Mario, it was about all aspects of the Mario's 35th anniversary. The Mario, for some reason there. I'm not sure why that was that.
Mario.
Yeah. Mr. The Mario. But like any company and every company does an announcement for a single game. Nintendo still releases announcements that aren't in the direct of trailers for, hey, check out this new game that's coming out or just released or whatever. But a direct is like that longer presentation where you're not getting one thing. And even if it's focused, you're getting every aspect of that thing. You're not just getting a quick trailer. It's not an announcement. It is the direct. It is the information directly to you, the consumer, from Nintendo. And I think that there has been there's a level of fun that they put into it with how they produce it that makes it more important than just an announcement. Because again, it's not just a trailer, it's not just a group of trailers all back to back to back. They crack jokes and they bring personality, and that's what makes it a direct. And the same thing with the State of Play and with the Inside Xbox. The companies themselves bring personality to these announcements.
Okay, Corey, what makes it a direct?
I mean, basically, what they said. When you go into a Nintendo Direct, you're expecting some big things to happen, right? It might not be the biggest thing, but for me, the last Nintendo Direct, Mario Golf was the big thing. I'm so excited for Mario Golf; it's ridiculous. They've had good directs, they've had bad directs, quote unquote bad directs. Some are less informative or less popular than others. But their goal is to give the information directly to the players, to the fans. And I think for the most part, especially since the Switch has come out, it's been on fire. Some of those early ones, like when they were still trying to figure it out, you can point to a couple that were like, okay, this is weird. Maybe they should just go back to a press conference, or They as they were figuring out, but once they started getting not only good at it but great at it, look how many companies have copied them. That speaks to the power of what Nintendo can do. They can sway an entire industry into one way, right? They're not always going to be the most technically savvy company. They're not going to always have the greatest graphics or the best online or voice chat or whatever, right? But just the simple fact that they can come out with something like Breath of the Wild. Their whole entire direct the one year was Breath of the Wild. Their whole treehouse was Breath of the Wild. Their whole E3 booth was Breath of the Wild. One game. How can you not look at the power of what a Nintendo Direct can do when they change the entire industry with one game. You know? So, I mean, it's a powerful thing. It's an exciting thing. I wish it was next Tuesday already because I am just like, oh my God, let's just do it already.
Yes.
But, you know, Nintendo is just such a powerful company across the board. It doesn't matter if you love all of their IP. It doesn't matter if you like one single IP. You know, it might be one single game from a single IP, but Nintendo has touched everybody in this hobby, this in video games, you know? There are no video games without Nintendo.
Nick, what makes it a direct?
I think it's the intimacy behind the direct. It's Nintendo's ability to really, and I mean, they started it, right? This is like their thing. This is their baby. They started, and what Corey said, which is what I was going to bring up for the next question for strategy, but Sony and Microsoft and other gaming companies have done the exact same thing, but repackaged it, right? The directs are always very like informative or like funny and just fun to watch. It really feels like Nintendo is in your living room with you during a Nintendo Direct. It feels like they are sitting there going, this is what we've been working on. This is what we've been wanting to show you. Even if it's not what you wanted to see at that point in time, you're still excited because you can see how excited they are announcing these titles or this hardware or merchandise or anything Nintendo's doing during a Direct. It's always felt genuine. It's always felt intimate. Like, again, like you're there with them and they're bringing you into their world. And that's why I think that's what makes Direct for me. And that's why I think the Direct was important, and I'm glad Nintendo started doing them.
Yes, Jacob?
Real quick, Nick, you are a PC guy.
Yes.
Do you have an MMO of choice?
I used to play Guild Wars.
Okay. So I played a ton of WoW back in the day.
Yeah.
I equate directs. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I kind of equate directs a little bit to like how I would feel when they would release patch notes.
Yes.
Where it's like you got to see directly into what they were doing to your game, to your thing, to your class, whatever. And it gave, like you said, it gave a lot more intimacy to it all because it wasn't just like, hey, it's out, figure it out for yourself. It was like, here's what we've done, and this is what we want you to know, and this is what we think is important, and you take that information and do what you need to do with it.
Exactly.
And so I was just wondering if you felt similar to that, because I kind of get the same feeling with directs, is that it's like you said, it's very intimate.
It's the same energy for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's like it's tight and it's focused. Like they got a list of games that they're going to show you, and yeah, sometimes they got shadow drops, they got surprises. It's going to be fun and engaging, but it also helps you recognize who these companies and developers are and what they're actually making. They're not hiding about CG. They're not hiding the product. They're showing you what you're actually going to get, and they're going to do quirky statements and stuff like that, or help you create memes and stuff. Like you guys said, engaging, fun, directly to the person. But it's always a light. And when they need to make it mature and dark and stuff, they fully present it all in the right way and everything. So, yes, let's move on to the next one. Is this the best strategy that Nintendo has done, and actually for gaming in general? Nick?
So I think it's one of the best, right? I think E3 in general is the best strategy and the best place to showcase what you're doing. I stand firm on that. Big conferences, in my opinion, are the best way to show off your biggest titles. But obviously Nintendo did something right and they struck oil because Ubisoft does it. Sony does it. EA is now doing it. Microsoft is doing it. So they created an entire way to show things off with directs. You could call them the other ones whatever you want. It's a direct. Mm-hmm. You may as well say the Sony Direct, the Microsoft Direct, Ubisoft Direct. This is one of the best strategies that any company has done. But again, I will say, for bigger titles like Breath of the Wild 2, I don't think them showing it off at a smaller direct would be good. Mm-hmm. Them showing it off at a huge direct such as E3 because obviously this is a bigger version of the Direct, in my opinion. This would be the perfect place to do it. A smaller one that comes out in, like, let's say February. That wouldn't. I would feel that would almost be like, so do you care about this at all? Because you are just kind of throwing it out there to the world. But Nintendo is a wild card, so you never know what they're going to do. So yeah, it's one of the best strategies, I think.
David, do you think this is one of the best gaming strategies in the gaming industry?
I do. I mean, I think the imitation being the highest form of flattery, as the saying goes. I mean, the fact that PlayStation's done it, I think that speaks for itself. I will say though that companies like Sony, who have done it instead of going to E3, I think that's a mistake. So I think it works for Nintendo because they do it multiple times a year and they're still attending E3. I can't for the life of me, and I know this is not quite what your question is asking, but I can't for the life of me understand why Sony wouldn't take the free advertising to be a part of E3 and have people talk about your products. And I like that Nintendo does both. And so I would say a qualified yes. It's great that Nintendo does directs, but only because they also do the big conferences.
Corey, do you think this is one of gaming's best strategies?
I mean, it's my favorite way to consume things, right? Like, I feel like it's very, no pun intended, but directed, right? Like, you look at some of these stage shows where their demos are bad, right? We just talked about the Skyward Sword demo, right? Like, there's a lot of pressure on some of these devs who maybe aren't the best personalities to have on stage, right? They're not very personable. Maybe they don't have a great personality. Not saying that all of them are like that, but you get those people out there, and then you see demos, right? The infamous one for Uncharted 4, right? Where they had to restart the demo to make sure it worked on stage, right? Live. So I think the Direct is the best way to get the best out of everything that you have to show without, it having a chance of failing or, somebody slipping up, talking or whatever. Like, it's a nice clean way to distribute your information without anything happening.
Jacob, what about you?
Yeah, I think it is the best strategy because it not only is it just, it's, as we've all already mentioned, and I'm going to echo, it's very intimate. It's very, we keep saying it because it's the perfect name for a thing like this, but it's very direct. It allows everyone to get excited. Stealth on Twitter talks about all the time about how, like, a Nintendo Direct announcement is like a Christmas morning. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone's very excited about it. Everyone's talking about it. But then more importantly, it's a good strategy because, like with this most recent Direct that we had, where Aonuma came out and said, I know you want to hear about Breath of the Wild 2, but we don't have anything to say right now. But we're saying it later. It allows them to take the time to say, we know what you want. We're not ready to share it yet, but we promise we're listening. And that gets back into those same things that we've reiterated and echoed and talked about. But that alone gives them the freedom to announce things on their schedule. Mm-hmm. And I think that and it gets the hype train rolling for the community because it's like, oh, they didn't say anything this time, but they're saying it soon. Like, when is that one coming? Like, the moment it ends, you're already looking forward to the next one. So,
yes, I agree with everybody that I think this is one of the best strategies for gaming, because Nintendo is able to showcase various games for different people. So if there's something that you didn't like at one point of the show, there's something there that you might end up liking next and everything. And plus, it's easy and accessible for people to just watch in. It helps with the conversations. People could, like we've been as podcast creators, we are able to predict Nintendo Direct, and it continues to happen that through all the year. We get hype, and we actually, can create what's possibilities that they may have for it. So yeah, I think it is one of like the best thing for one of the best strategies. David, what does the future hold for it, for a Nintendo Direct?
Well, it seems like over this last year, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the Indie Direct has really morphed into its own thing. And I wonder, we've also had a Mario 35 Direct. There's rumors of a Zelda Direct if we ever get that. I just wonder how many variations Nintendo can do of this successful format. We have a family of Switches. Maybe we'll have a family of Directs, right? That they have different kinds to target very subcategory audiences. So that's my suspicion.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of already see that too, right? Not only with like the indie stuff, but we have like the Nintendo partner showcases, right? Or the Pokemon presents directs and stuff. Like we're kind of seeing them kind of temper expectations, I guess you would say, with some of these different styles of directs. And I think it's good. I think that is a good way to do it. So
yeah, well, Corey, anything else?
No. No, I know.
Okay.
I know. We kind of need to move on. We have been running kind of long. So
okay. Nick, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the next big thing for them to do, kind of same vein, is tiers. You could do a tier of directs, right? Like it'd be in its own family category, but it's a tier. So you could have like indie directs, and then which they do, and then say they did want to do Breath of the Wild during a direct that's not at E3. Well, if they do it and it's successful, that becomes its own thing. They don't need E3 at that point. Because they wouldn't. They would not need E3 at that point. If they do a direct and they're going, hey, we didn't show this off at E3, we waited to do this a separate date, our own direct, our own money, everything. Boom, here it is. And it's successful, which it has no choice but to be successful. They would go, okay, cool. Do we need to still stick around to E3? Look at Sony. Was it a very brutish bull run move? Yeah, but it's working for Sony. So Nintendo might be seeing that going, okay, they took the direct, but it's working for them not being at E3. If we do this outside of E3, which they have done directs, on smaller scales, they do a huge scale direct outside of E3 and it works, again, it will. They may end up going, we're just going to do our own conference from now on. All Nintendo-based conference.
What about you, Jacob?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, so similar to what Nick said, the idea of them bringing back a digital version of the Tokyo Game Show or Space World, which was basically just Nintendo's thing, that would mean that they could make their own E3, and they could even still go to E3 and make E3 they're like, oh, well, this is much smaller because you've got Nintendo whatever to look forward to in the future. Like, they could still have that marketing there if they wanted it, or they could skip out from time to time. But they and I believe all three companies have the ability to put together their own shows. I think that E3 is special because it brings them all together so that it's a week of gaming news for everybody. Like, it's very rare to have people that are just one thing, especially nowadays. But I think that would be the direction that it would have to go in the future, is for them to just say, we're going to have our own, maybe make it a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing where they do the treehouse, where they do like they do at E3, where they have an hour-long or 2-hour-long direct that is the start to this show, and then it's nothing but treehouse for 48 hours. Yeah.
Don't tease me like that, Jacob.
Oh, dude, I'd love that.
I know for me, quickly, it's just that giving these indie developers time. We get to see the people who create them, and we never got to see all the indie developers who've been making some of these great indie games. So changing that in the future, treating them like they're almost like third party, also or like a Nintendo, like a big product. It's good to see that is happening with that, and I can see more of that happening in the future. Has it changed E3? To me personally, yes, it's changed E3 because it allowed them to be creative. We got like the Robot Chicken kind of E3 press conference. We got the Muppet stuff. We got different kinds for them to be creative to bring in E3 presentation. Corey, what about you?
I mean, yeah, it's changed E3 forever, right? Like, so many companies have Sony's left E3 to do their state of plays, right? I mean, that's a huge blow. So, yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes, it has.
What about you, Jacob?
Yeah, no, yeah. It's short and sweet. It absolutely has changed E3, and I think E3 has been trying to recover from this shift in the industry for a while now.
What about you, David?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I still don't. As much as I love the directs, as much as I love companies like Sony doing their state of play, I think it's too bad for the gamer because it feels like a holiday when we get to E3. I mean, it feels like the holiday season in gamer world, and I'll be covering it this year. I got my first press pass to cover E3, and I've just set aside 4 days to be at my computer, and I can't wait. I'm so excited, and it just the idea that companies would remove themselves from this very celebratory experience, I think, is a mistake.
Mm-hmm. I think E3 needs to shift into a more of like a celebration type thing instead of I mean, it started as a trade show where the internet didn't exist, right? Or it was very limited in what you could do with the internet. Now with YouTube and Twitch and all these other different ways you can distribute your content and get business deals and whatever, right? Like it only takes a phone call or a Zoom chat, or you fly across the country for a day and a half or something to meet with a publisher. It's like in digital distribution too, right? Like it used to be we need to sell, we need to put our game boxes in Toys R Us, right? So we need to have the E3 press conference to convince Toys R Us to let us sell our product in their store, right? Now it's like, well, digital distribution has changed everything. Everything has just changed so much that like E3 needs to learn how to shift with the times and be more celebratory instead of more we're a trade show type thing. So
Also, shout out to G4 Tech TV. I loved watching E3 on there.
They're back too.
I know. I saw that and followed them on Twitter again. I was like, yes, I'm so glad.
Nice. What about you, Nick?
Without a doubt, it's changed E3, and it's a little for the better, a little for the worse. So now, mom, dad, and mom. One of the moms divorced dad and mom. So that sucks. Sony is gone, right? But hopefully, with how things are going for E3 and people are getting more and more excited. It's cool to be a nerd now, man. It's cool to be a dork and a geek. People are more excited for E3
where
now.
was this 15 years ago when I was in school?
I have not a clue. That's why I had to get tattoos so people would leave me alone. It's cool though now, man. So I'm really thinking Sony is going to go, well, crap. We need to let's go back. Will you please take us back, right? But what could Nintendo do? They had to create something, and they did. And people followed suit, and they took that idea and ran with it. So, yeah, it's changed E3.
All right, our final question: how would you make your own Nintendo Direct?
Oh gosh,
Jacob.
So I think I missed the E3 predictions episode. Maybe not. I don't know if we did one of those. But I would make a Nintendo Direct focused entirely on my brand new game, Kid Icarus, Bloodborne Souls, Dark Souls style. I've ranted about that needing Icarus Souls. I've ranted about that needing to be a thing ever since my first time on Pow Block, and I want it to be a thing. So please look forward to my Direct where I announce that game, and everyone loves it.
Jacob, would you play a gosh, this was probably like 4 or 5 years ago when Hyrule Warriors first was announced on the Wii U. We were like, well, what other genres could Zelda merge into? Would you play a Hyrule Souls?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I just think Kid Icarus fits. I think Kid Icarus has been gone for so long, and it fits the bill for that like dark style. But absolutely, I'd play a Mario Souls, man. Watch Mario go berserk with the fireball flower on somebody. That'd be great. But no, yeah, Kid Icarus, Dark Souls, Bloodborne.
All right,
great. That's what it is.
Corey,
that's what it is.
What,
Corey? How would you make your Nintendo Direct?
I would make it as long as possible with as many announcements as I could possibly fit in it and say goodbye.
What?
I don't know. I wasn't prepared for this question.
David, how would you make your own Nintendo Direct?
Well, I want nostalgic celebrity appearances. So give me the voice of Mario to come announce the new Mario Odyssey 2 game. I want the voice actor from the Excuse Me Princess 1989 Zelda cartoon to announce a new Zelda game, right? Like, it would just be fun. Like, I want Nintendo to laugh at itself a little bit, but also have these, because Nintendo has this cultural cachet that it can totally leverage. Like, make it this fun event that's about more than just the games, but about the culture.
I need John Leguizamo to voice Luigi in the next.
Thank you. Yeah. I was this close to saying that.
Could you imagine if Nintendo came out for E3 and was like, guys, for Breath of the Wild 2, we gave Link a voice, and it went to black, and it was just, excuse me, princess.
I would die.
It would be legendary.
Wow.
But if they did that as a prank, come on, that would be one of the greatest all-time moments at E3.
Nick, how would you make a Nintendo Direct?
I would go to Seattle, get Gabe. Well, I'd have to go to New Zealand. I'd get Gabe Newell in a cage. I'd have to get a big cage, but I'd get him in a cage, throw him on stage, and say, "You will announce Half-Life and Portal on a Switch right now."
Oh my god!
Yeah. Other than that, I wouldn't change a damn thing. Nintendo Directs are great. I love it. They tend to hit every aspect I ever want them to hit, and I wouldn't have to change a thing except for Portal and Half-Life on a Switch, because that would be insane.
Orange box for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I can't believe that hasn't happened.
TF2 on a Switch, like that would be fun. Like, you would bring an entire new audience into those games.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'll have like desserts introducing games like cookies,
of course,
or cakes and stuff. And then part of it, from all the music for the games, I would have a soundtrack that people could buy if they want to for those games.
Great idea.
And then at the end of it, of course, do a big reveal, but also be like, hey, if you want to learn more, or, of course, do the Treehouse Live thing, but be like, hey, check out Ed's Direct for the Japanese version of it, and check out more games that wasn't in this Direct, and put it out there. And then be like, if you guys want all of these sweets that you've seen, go to Nintendo.com and check out our recipe, our Snacktendo recipe for all things snacks. So, thank you, Dr. Corey. Thank you, Dr. David. Thank you, Dr. Nick. Thank you, Dr. Jacob, for this Doc Mode session. Now we're going to get into playing with power. David, what have you been playing with power?
Oh, man, I've got some great stuff that I've mixed in. I'm still grinding away at Xenoblade Chronicles. Dan tells me I'm almost to the end of the game, and I'm loving that. But I started playing Triforce Heroes since I was on the show last, and it's just phenomenal. It's rocketing up my list of best Zelda ever, and I take back every horrible thing I ever said about Triforce Heroes.
There you go.
God, I'm concerned about you, David.
It's David so good. I love it. It's got everything that I love about Zelda, the puzzling, the multiple ways to solve a problem, but in level format. So if I have a quick break from work, I can knock out a quick level on Triforce Heroes and come right back to work. So I love it. I also had to get a new phone this weekend. So I was lucky enough to get a free iPhone, which was great. And it came with a year of Apple TV and Apple Arcade. So I am not a mobile gamer. I normally detest anything mobile gaming. And so I kind of just thought I'd try some stuff out. So I played Sayonara Wild Hearts, I think it's the name.
Yeah.
Which I believe also is on Switch as well now.
It is.
Indeed. And it's all right. I'm still not sold on mobile gaming, but I'm going to give it like a good 3-month try here. So
you, sir, have not played Disney Emoji Blitz.
Are you going to play the Platinum game one? I cannot think of the name of it.
No one can because it's on Apple Arcade.
David, you need to play.
Right, he said he has Apple Arcade.
I know.
Yeah,
it was a joke, Ed.
Oh,
You need to play Grindstone.
okay.
Grindstone is a great mobile game. It's also on Switch, but it works really, really well on mobile. And you also need to play. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on Oceanhorn.
Yeah,
it's like
it's a top-down Zelda clone.
Yeah,
Inspired by Zelda. Yeah.
There's the second one's also on Apple Arcade too. So check it out. It's 30. The second one's $30 on Switch, but it's on Apple Arcade. So
Okay.
Well, Corey, what have you been playing with power?
Oh boy. So I've been going through Mario 3D World and actually trying to 100% each of the 8 main worlds. I don't know if I'm going to do the super hard you suck mode at the end, but I am trying to do the 8 main worlds, and then I'm going to move on to Bowser's Fury. Mario 3D World is the most amazing Mario game ever made.
Yes.
It's the best Mario game. I don't care what anybody says. It's better than Mario World. It's better than Mario 3. It's better than...
it's 3D World.
I know. So...
literally both of them.
I know. Combined. So what I've been trying to do is like move back into the Nintendo space, which is where I feel like I'm most comfortable a lot more, and I've kind of been neglecting my other consoles, which is fine with me. But I re-downloaded Starlink, which was that Ubisoft collaboration, and they did this whole Star Fox storyline. That game is really good. I had the deluxe edition's on sale all the time for like $15. Comes with all the weapons and all the ships and stuff. But like the Star Fox storyline is exclusive to the Switch, obviously, and it's like it's the best Star Fox game since 64. I'm telling you, man, it is so good. So I would recommend that to anybody who's itching to play Star Fox. It's really good. I play a little bit of Wolfenstein 2 again. I kind of want to finish that up. It's an interesting port to the Switch, and I have no idea how it runs. But obviously, people a lot smarter than me made it happen. And then I have been toying with the idea again of restarting Breath of the Wild and going through and playing that game again because of 2 coming out soon. So I dabbled in that yesterday. I actually jumped into master mode because I don't want to erase my save file yet because it has all the Korok seeds in all of the dungeons and all of the shrines. But man, dude, Breath of the Wild is so good.
Yep.
It is so good. Right? I just found myself running around and just picking up stuff and setting things on fire and using the wolf amiibo to kill things for me because it's way too hard on master mode. It is so good. I cannot get over how good Breath of the Wild is. Sorry. And that I'll wrap it up there. So that's what I've been playing.
All right. Jacob, what have you been playing with Power?
Go Nick before me because I've been gone for a month and I've got a lot to talk about.
Okay. Nick, what you have been playing with Power? And yes, you can add PC.
All right, so I've been playing again and again Half-Life 2. I've gone back into Black Mesa this month. I played a little bit of Doom Eternal again, just because I always hop back into Doom games, I feel like. Mm-hmm. I tried Days Gone. It's cool. It's all right. It's all right. And then I tried Biomutant, and that game felt empty. So I just started playing my old go-tos, which is Half-Life and Doom.
You put Biomutant on hold. I know the patch came out, so I gotta see.
I'm waiting until they add more to it. It feels like a huge, beautiful world full of nothing, and everything you need to know or everything that happens in the first like hour of the game is like all you need. I supposedly is what I've heard, but I got very sick of it very fast. I was like, this sucks, and it's just unfortunate because it could be and should be this beautiful thing, and it just wasn't.
Okay, Jacob, what have you been playing with Power?
Yeah, so I started to play Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney on stream. I'm doing all the voice acting for that game, so it's been a lot of fun because there's a lot of female characters and everyone's just very crazy and weird. So I've been playing through that.
Give us your best female character voice.
Okay, hold on. Oh, Nick!
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, buddy.
Ace Phoenix is called Nick by the main character, so that was the best I could do. And so yeah, she talks a lot. There's also a very old lady that sounds like this.
Security guard.
Yeah, it's great. So I've been doing that. I got the itch to play. I play my favorite game of all time, Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. So I got the itch to play that again. So I'm running through that on the Switch. I've been continuing to work on getting Breath of the Wild, a file on Breath of the Wild to 100% for like the third time now. that I do that kind of in between. I still play Monster Hunter regularly. My community, the Otter Kingdom, has got me playing a lot of Mario Kart and Among Us and Mario Tennis. I just played through the adventure mode of Mario Tennis. While I was out with bronchitis, I had they had the Dragon Quest anniversary announcements, and so I was like, oh man, I'm back in the Dragon Quest mood. So I played through and beat Dragon Quest 1 in one day, and then I started Dragon Quest 2 on the Switch. I've been playing, I got into a Castlevania mood, and so now I'm playing Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. I started messing around and grinding out character levels in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity because of the new update. I picked up Final Fantasy VII, and I've started playing through that again. I almost beat Untitled Goose Game. I started a new game called Mana Spark, which is a really cute little rogue crawling indie game about the entire world has magic except for the human race, and so they're considered slaves. I've been all over the place in gaming lately. I feel a lot like Ed, and it's been a lot of fun. I've beaten a lot of smaller stuff, but I've just been each inching away at a bunch of different games little by little every day.
All right. Well, I'm going to run quickly because we're at the end of the show. Still playing Binary Star Infinity at level 8. Started up Famicom Detective Club, The Missing Heir, getting through that game. There's 11 chapters, and I think I'm only on chapter 2 at this moment. Started up World's End Club. This is from the people who made Danganronpa and the other mystery game. So I'm playing that. And last but not least, been playing Crosscode, getting further into that game. I haven't progressed through the story because I'm doing 6 different side quests of the game. So definitely enjoying that. And of course, playing Super C for my Contra 2 run and Metroid because I haven't been in that game. But that's what I've been playing with Power. Thank you everybody for watching Nintendo Pow Block. Like everybody said, is E3. We are getting ready to do a lot of recording, a lot of discussion, watching, snacking, definitely a lot of writing from the writing team. So you guys want to check that out at bushrushgames.com. But we're going to get quickly into some plugs. Corey, where can we find you?
You can find me at I am Corey in HD on Twitter. You can find me hosting the Boss Rush podcast, and David, I want to take this chance to tell you that I really appreciate everything you're doing with the website. I don't really get to see you in person all that often, especially the last few weeks, but it's amazing. So, yeah.
Thank you, Corey. That's awesome.
David, where can we find you?
Well, like Corey said, you can find me at bossrushgames.com, where I do work editing and organizing content, and occasionally writing when I get a chance. I also write for zeldadungeon.net, and a little bit of work here and there at themighty.com. I also did want to give out a quick shout out. We are growing as a writing team, and we still are bringing folks on to join all that's happening here at bossrushgames.com. So if you're interested, you love video games, you're interested in doing some writing about them, you can email us at opportunities@brg@gmail.com. That's opportunities@brg.com at gmail.com.
Jacob, where can we find you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Galutrad, Galutrad. I've started getting my Instagram back up and running, and I'm going to be posting some cool Nintendo-related content there. And also follow me on Twitter because I talk mostly on there, and I'll announce when all the other things that I do on there. So
I followed you.
You did follow me. I said I've gotten a weird rush of people following me once I started doing stuff on Instagram again. It was very strange.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yes. Nick, where can we find you in your podcast?
Yep, you can find me at flies.ngs on Twitter. I think it's flies.avi on Instagram. You can find the WASD and Beyond podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Beyond WASD. And our show is every Wednesday and Friday at 7 a.m.
All right. You guys can find me on Twitter at ThatRetroCode. You can also check me out on Optional Opinion on SoundCloud and other podcast apps, and World11 Podcast at Podbean.com. Follow us on Twitter at Pow Block Podcast. Everybody have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we will see you next time in a couple of weeks, I should say, on Nintendo Pow Block. Bye, everybody. Woohoo!
For the outtakes, Corey, Ed, there's a game that I found on the eShop that I think you should play because you played the other one that's like it. It's called Hentai versus Evil.
I was about to say.